I had a complete reset. I had no money, I had a loan, and I had no job, I had nothing at all.
You went through such transformations in just 3 years?
Yes.
So the whole situation, it got a little bit rough.
I realized that I never want to go back to that state again. You can ask questions of the universe, and you can get answers to them. You don't have to strictly sit in Vipassana for that. And
Be sure to watch until the end, because news to me,
a numerologist, I'm not a psychic, I'm not a shaman. No, that's not me. So who am I? What am I? Do I look like Father Frost or Santa Claus or something? There was a woman in my practice, 45 years old, who had never cried because her father thought she was weak.
but if you want Vadim to be your exorcist, that's absolutely no problem.
We're here to enjoy ourselves. And here you are crying, bothering all of us.
Hello, friends. This is Rauf Asadov, founder of Organic People. We train teachers in yoga, meditation, qigong, and other helping professions. I also organize large-scale yoga and meditation festivals. And I host this wonderful podcast where I always invite very interesting people. And please welcome our guest today, an interesting personality, Vadim Borisov. Vadim, hello.
Hello.
Vadim is a skilled body-oriented therapist and the creator of the Neurowave method. That's exactly what we'll be talking about today, how the Neurowave affects a person's life. Vadim, first of all, thank you for coming. Secondly, before you, I had several guests with whom we tried to figure out what this is all about, where it came from, and why this topic of the Neurowave, some call it the energy wave, energy orgasms, and so on is so popular, especially now. So let's probably start with the basics in simple terms. What is the Neurowave, to immediately give people some context for what's going on?
The most important thing is that people really need to understand this, because so much happens in life. And when we feel some kind of movement of energy within ourselves, we try to figure out how it forms and what forms it. I have developed an actual method. It's not just a phenomenon. It's not just something we feel. It's a set of techniques designed to release blocks, right? Bodily blocks, psychological traumas from a person's body. So we're not just seeing movement or twitching in people, right? Not just orgasms or strange incomprehensible screams. We see deep work happening in the person's body. This method I'm talking about, like the Neurowave, actually allows you to create a sense of deep work, the release of psychological traumas.
Are you familiar with the colleagues who were actually here, like Grisha Potemkin, Vladimir Golotropchuk, or someone else? Have you compared their techniques with your own? Because, for example, Golotropchuk's foundation is Taoist practices. You say that at the very core of your method, you also have a certain set of very specific and distinct techniques. And do these particular techniques truly overlap in meaning with those of your esteemed colleagues? Or is what you do something completely different, but the effect and mechanics are similar?
When it comes to visualization, yes, I'm familiar with their work. In terms of visualization, it really is similar. And that's the question I get from European and American audiences, because there are a lot of techniques where you can see that something similar is happening. They say, are you sure? Isn't this also like activation, where the lines go, right? Or is it something else? And I keep answering the same question for everyone, right? Because everyone's philosophy is the one that truly changed their life. And that's why they incorporate a set of techniques into that philosophy. And indeed, it does look similar. But what each master offers as their own individual work, their approach, how to place your hands, how to talk to the person, to the partner, and so on. And all of this foundation as a technique, as a method, is of course completely different. That is, we always take something from somewhere or someone, we hear something, see something on television or in reels or somewhere else, but we still end up developing something of our own. I truly believe that there is a certain inherent uniqueness where people simply look at a master and genuinely say, does this deeply resonate with me? I just want to go to them, not even knowing exactly what specific offerings they provide, but I just want to go there. I think this is the fundamental philosophy and primary method that should be abundantly clear to anyone choosing a particular path or direction.
Tell me, in your opinion, what is it that grabs the audience and those guys who are watching us right now about you? You've probably received some feedback, or maybe you know something about yourself. What is it about you that attracts people the most as a master?
Yes, this is really an important point that I present myself to the audience as a master. What is it that they see in me? And in general, as a method too, right? Because at first, people are drawn in by the reels, they see something unusual, something strange happening on screen. It's interesting. And then they start to look more closely and thoughtfully at the master himself. That's why I'm always sharing my thoughts. I give a lot, I share useful information. I explain how deeply we can actually go into ourselves, into our bodies, and open up. So it's about conveying information. My primary superpower, as I truly see it, is the profound ability to deeply understand people and their complex psycho-emotional blocks that are often manifested within the physical body. The profound ability to truly feel and deeply trust myself and my own personal space is essential so that these persistent blocks can be completely and effectively removed from the physical body.
Vadim, is the ability to understand people something you acquired thanks to your mastery of the Neurowave technique, among other things, or is it innate? I'm curious about this. Why? Because you see, I'm 38 and I still haven't honestly learned how to understand people. I'm not being disingenuous here, but I always see only the best in people. And then it turns out there are nuances. Well, or it's not necessarily always just the best. Somehow I feel like there's something off with my intuition. Yeah. How is it for you? How is it? Is it innate?
Really, to learn anything, any teaching, it's not enough to just read some books, right? You truly need some life experience through which you understand that this is the person who will genuinely give you something. Or simply, in general, someone with whom you will feel completely at ease. That's all there is to it. So it's a concept that isn't specifically a core part of the Neurowave method, but it can certainly help people open up more. That's precisely why my experience is connected to the fact that I was constantly working with various people. I have a PhD in education. I taught for 20 years. I had thousands of students and graduates. And of course, I constantly had to help them unlock their potential, so to speak. Yeah, I don't know anything. So help me, tell me, I want to become someone in this life, after school. That's why the ability to find some kind of superpower in a person, well, that's basically what I'm doing now, giving people the opportunity to realize themselves, to unlock their potential, because we all come with something, with some kind of baggage. But a lot of people are afraid to open up, first of all, to themselves and accordingly to the world, because there are so many blocks instilled by parents and society.
So it turns out that ever since your early youth, you've consistently had a certain profound love for and a genuine desire to truly help people open up and express themselves, which subsequently transformed into you mastering some effective techniques and now actively popularizing this particular method.
Yes, that's absolutely right. No, it's a path that has always been with me. But from time to time, when people who are perceptive or knowledgeable come nowadays, there are a lot of energy practitioners around me. They just say themselves, well, this is your gift, yes, in English, like a talent, right? That's it. So when I look back at my childhood, my youth, let's say, I realized that even then, for example, at 15, I was already leading a group of people. They were kids, but they followed me. Why? Because they were interested. That's all there is to it. And so gradually, little by little, first there was the yacht club, then the Institute of Tourism, and then many other projects. I enjoyed being involved in all of these projects. I just like it. I am passionate about giving people the opportunity to feel themselves and enjoy life. That's basically how everything I do now came together.
So let's delve into a bit more comprehensive detail so our esteemed audience can learn much more about you. At 15, you were already gathering groups, you already felt like a leader, you were a good teenager, looking for adventure, and much like Tom Sawyer, inviting others to truly come along for some great adventures. And then you became a candidate
Of pedagogical sciences.
right? Did you go to a pedagogical university?
Well, it turns out I've always been driven by a sense of freedom, adventure, and something new. So naturally, I enrolled in the Institute of Tourism, and in this field, which gave me the opportunity to explore the world and travel, I basically started to invest myself, gathering people and experiencing everything. At that time, my father and I successfully established a branch of a rather powerful and influential institute, and we attracted a huge number of dedicated students who were diligently searching for themselves on the challenging path of developing the tourism industry, so to speak. So this moment gave me the opportunity in what I'm doing now. Once again, I don't stay in one place. I'm not just sitting in Moscow. And I also want to travel and give this experience to others.
But you grew up in Moscow, in the Moscow region.
Yes, Moscow and the Moscow region are my homeland, and they remain so and always will be.
Yay! I love Moscow too. I also love Moscow more than anything else one could possibly love on this wonderful, beautiful, beloved planet of ours. Okay, you're a leader. You develop a desire to share knowledge, to teach people. And then after you finished university, you and your father decided to start a business. So right after you completed your studies, which was in the early 2000s, as I understand it, you began to get this feeling.
90 years. In 1997, I was just 18 years old, and I was already actively teaching. So I was very much interested in how it's truly possible, how it's genuinely possible to create something entirely new. Because the 90s were a significant time,
Yes.
a time for creativity, when absolutely anything was possible. And we did it, yes. We created our own institute, and not just that based on, well, my father and I also had a business. We founded a yacht club, one of the largest clubs in the Moscow region on the Mozhaysk Reservoir, where I was the camp director and developed a program for a sailing school for helmsmen. And that was actually the first time at 18 that I became a camp director and taught sailing to teenagers who were 15, yes, who were 2 or 3 years younger than me. That was the very moment, the very first and most important one, when I took it upon myself, seized the opportunity, believed in myself, and created a kind of community of people who were searching for themselves in this life.
So, am I right in understanding that your Maslow's pyramid was always fulfilled? Or was it because in the 90s there was an opportunity to try something new and take risks? Your father boldly went for it and pulled you along with him? Or was it always the case, even before that, that for all 18 years you never had any acute material needs?
No, really, the material aspect only opens up to the possibility of taking risks, even if you don't have money. And in the 90s, almost everyone had money problems. But for my father, money was never an issue. He could conjure it out of thin air. Absolutely. People truly believed in the grand idea he had meticulously created. So absolutely out of nowhere, on a specific spot where there were just some bushes and green grass, they brought in a very large hangar, which they also managed to carefully arrange. And people genuinely believed that it really was for the children and that these children desperately needed help. And the children were me and essentially my entire family. And then after that, the luxurious yachts were subsequently added.
Necessary for children.
Also necessary for children, yes. because children need to be raised after all. That's why we had a patriotic yacht club. And somehow it turned out that with this one idea, which my father shared with absolutely everyone, there was no concept of entrepreneurship, no concept of business there. It was just the idea that there was a great concept that gave people the opportunity to bring happiness and enjoyment to life. And that's why everyone came to us, altruists, enthusiasts with shining eyes, people with a lot of money who gladly shared it because they were doing it for the benefit of the children who were also spending time there. So I created a program that allowed us to take people out on the water and explain to them what yachting is all about. And it so happened that we had 100 vessels, 100 yachts, all absolutely free of charge. We didn't invest a single ruble, not a single kopeck into what we had. It was really quite amazing, apart from accommodation and everything else. Nevertheless, this valuable experience later allowed me to create virtually any business idea from scratch without investing a single ruble into a new concept or venture.
The season there was short, right? It starts end of spring, summer, and a little bit.
Yachts are strictly a summer season thing in the Moscow region.
Did you finish your studies at the institute?
Yes, I completed my studies fully, then defended my PhD, and then continued working. I was working alongside being a student.
Listen, I have an important question for me as well. I'm sure it's important for many viewers as well. Especially now with Generation Z kids, I heard on the radio that some parents even drive them to work and make sure they actually go into the office and don't run off somewhere. Basically, they make absolutely sure they're at work. There are already a lot of memes about this. And even now, yes, I realized it even 5 years after working at a construction site in a large Russian construction company that my higher education, in terms of knowledge specifically, not life experience, but knowledge, since I studied at a military academy, wasn't really that necessary. Because everything I needed for the construction site, I basically learned in a couple of months when I changed into work clothes and gloves myself and assembled my cranes together with the installers. And now this is even more pronounced with all the artificial intelligences, particularities of raising children, more humane methods, not the Soviet ones. And not everyone today is willing to invest 5 years of their life sitting at a desk. So what kept you going back then to finish your studies to the end, right? Because you already understood, why do I need this desk? You were already earning in just one season, in 3 months of summer, well, maybe it doesn't matter how much, but you were probably making a decent amount, right? So why did you need all of this when you could just keep multiplying this model, this business model, into other businesses or move somewhere else, like everyone was moving to Bulgaria back then, right? Somewhere sunny, somewhere warm. What made you stay? What advice can you give to parents? I have a 16-year-old teenager too, Aliza, is applying now. She's going to theater, and I have no doubt about her. But my son is 7, and sure, he has 10 years ahead of him, but even so, I worry. Of course, everything will change 100 times by then. But for those who are applying right now, what can you recommend to them based on your experience? Is there exposure they should have?
Well, the most important thing to consider is that any activity you start, of course, you truly need to see it through to the very end. But even in my own personal example, I clearly realized that I was just simply wasting my valuable time. When I was studying, I just went ahead and graduated from the institute early. That's it. I just realized that I didn't want to waste a whole entire year commuting somewhere by train and getting more of that formal education. So I simply completed 2 years worth of studies in just one single year. And that was truly it. So one of the key things is, if you truly realize that you're wasting your valuable time, well, then just finish what you started as quickly and efficiently as possible. That's all there is to it. But of course, don't quit what you've started, because you never know what might come in handy in life later on. Even if something may not be relevant right now, it might become relevant in the next, let's say, 5 years. That's it. Any education yields certain benefits. Because yes, I no longer do what I used to do. I don't work in the field I studied for, but it gave me a foundation. That's all there is to it. So you just need to set tighter deadlines and get the most out of the opportunities you've been given. Maybe you don't have to attend every lecture. Maybe you can approach the educational process differently, but make sure you get the most out of it. You have this carefree time, right? Your student years. So please make sure you get the most out of it.
And at the same time, Vadim, you went for your candidate degree. Why?
Because in the broader field of education, it's still incredibly important to possess certain academic credentials that genuinely allow you to effectively hold specific, significant positions purely for professional career advancement purposes. Because I know things, I have the skills, that's all clear, but having the paper, the diploma, gives you the opportunity to achieve more, especially when we're talking about some kind of democratic educational institutions. Right, bureaucratic, sorry. That is where certain proof of your professional activity is really required.
By the way, right now, I think that's also not a bad thing for your work. We'll definitely get to the questions about Neurowaves soon, friends. But as usual, I'm curious about your journey, how you eventually came to these new areas of knowledge and where you acquired them. Let's go over that period. What businesses did you have? And why did you eventually decide to leave them behind in favor of what you're doing now? Or are you still able to run some other businesses in parallel?
Everything was happening in parallel. There were quite a few businesses, but of course, there were certain circumstances in life that even if you don't want to stop something, life itself will inevitably pull you away from it, regardless of your desires. That's how it is. There's the concept of partnership, there's the concept of the market, and so on. So certain triggers in life would go off. I had them too. Of course, there was trust, there was betrayal, there was infidelity, and everything else that comes with entrepreneurial activity. But nevertheless, the businesses that were created gave me the opportunity to believe in myself, in my abilities, because first of all, it's clear that someone needs this since people are buying. Second, it really brings in money. And third, I really can do it. So all these proofs served as lessons, showing me that, okay, I have about 10 to 15 professions in my life that I need to monetize. In other words, so that I can fully and comprehensively demonstrate that I am completely and truly adaptable to the dynamic and ever-evolving market that currently exists throughout the entire world. That's why I created my own clothing brand, brought it to the national and international market, and was #1 on Wildberries. And of course, in these moments, how can I then become a body therapist, right? Or for example, how can I be involved in manufacturing metal staircases at a metal construction plant and at the same time be a hotel manager with 20 years of experience, opening hotels and fully handling all the service operations? So all these fields are absolutely not connected, including the fact that I am a welder, an electrician, and in fact an auto mechanic by my first education and so on. So there are a lot of disqualifications. And most importantly, there is always that buyer, that customer who trusts you and says, "Thank you so much, here's your money," right? That's it. That's why I've always been drawn to some kind of creativity, you know? So the very first time a video camera appeared in 1994, I was already editing music videos for Channel 1. I had an acquaintance who gave me the opportunity to shoot with a Betacam and create music videos at a nonlinear editing studio. And when people ask me, where do you get such reels? I tell them I edit them myself. I don't let anyone else do it because that's something in me that I find interesting. All the reels, all the videos, I make them all myself. And why is that? Because it excites me. All the previous experience I've had is now packaged into one thing, a Neurowave. And what does that mean? It's about being a master. A master is someone who can simply look at a person and understand what that person needs. And you realize that if they have some kind of trigger in their life, it's actually quite easy to overcome it just takes trust in yourself. Thanks to all that lived experience, those businesses, and even the tragedies and so on, we're able to easily find common ground with anyone.
Vadim, that's awesome. Tell me, please, how did you transition from one business to another? Because they really are very diverse. They are nothing like each other. Wild berries, metal structures, hotel management. After all, you're self-aware enough not to just go somewhere for the money. I mean, you truly have to be deeply and genuinely passionate about it. So how exactly did you manage to be so incredibly passionate about such vastly and remarkably different fields?
People are the most important thing. What you do and who you do it for. After all, tourism and hotel service, which I was involved in, are made for people. People make the decision to take a vacation. Why? Out of abundance. They've saved up money and want something more. Tourism welcomes and serves people who have already moved beyond just meeting their basic physical needs. That's why, naturally, when you work with such people, you get satisfaction from the fact that they are pleased with the quality of service and their travels to different countries. And really, whatever I've created, including the clothing I design, clothing truly creates beauty, a profound beauty for each and every person. It wasn't just ordinary clothing. It was, let's say, one of the most exclusive and expensive brands that existed at that particular time it was the year 2019, which genuinely gave people the unique opportunity to truly feel exceptional quality, and that deeply inspired them. I don't know why, but prominent influencer show business stars wore my clothes and took photos for free simply because they genuinely liked them, and their eyes truly lit up with excitement, That's the answer to the question. What made me venture into different fields? The most important thing is the emotions, the sense of pleasure, the quality of life from the people who consume your product. That's all.
And what actually was the brand, Vadim?
Yes, it was the Australian brand OZV. When we were in Australia, my ex-wife and I created this brand and registered it there. Then we started distributing it in Russia. Number one top seller on Wildberries in 2019 to 2020. And Kabibi, have a photo with him. I think he even still wears the clothes. So there are some others, a lot of influencers with millions of followers. And
okay, did you just give the business to your wife, or did you both?
We decided the divorce.
I see. And what was before Neurowave? Neurowave?
Yes, that's right, exactly. So yes, that's correct. Before Neurowave, there was Energowave, because at first I was interested in that property, but then I realized it goes deeper. So it's not just...
So is Neurowave a derivative of Energowave? It's a derivative of Energowave, exactly right. Because it was necessary to give people the idea that you can experience things differently, not just orgasm and get pleasure from some convulsions, and moans and groans, but that you can actually help people remove psychological blocks from the body. That's why the whole point was to create a method that is fundamentally different from all the previous ones that have been popularized in Russia. Awesome, friends. Make sure to watch until the end, because this is news to me as well. I thought we were going to talk about the same thing, but it turns out Vadim goes deeper and further. And this is a deeper and more profound work with various blocks. And I'm quite sure we'll definitely go over some of the most popular cases with these blocks that people successfully get rid of at Vadim's insightful retreats and comprehensive trainings. Okay, fine. So before the energy wave, what was there? That is to say, what exactly did you bid farewell to before moving from the realm of clothing production, from the very basic ladders, to some more subtle and nuanced matters?
Well, before that, there was basically a divorce, right? And there was a clothing brand. But I can say that there was success on Wildberries, where the brand held a top position. During the divorce, I decided to give the brand to my wife, and I created another clothing brand and put it on Wildberries. It was really cool, really great, but it didn't excite me neither the financial results nor the feedback from customers. Nothing at all. I just realized that something was off. Well, how should I put it? Let's say the universe was telling me that I needed to do something fundamentally different now, not just repeat myself. And naturally, the question is, so what, excuse me, universe, can you please tell me what I should do? Should I just meditate and you'll tell me? So,
By the way, how do you ask questions to the universe? Tell us. Is there a method you can share with our viewers? Because I think a lot of people are sitting and watching right now, wondering what they should do, what will really excite them. This is actually quite a crisis point and a very common one. And it will be a problem.
you can ask the universe questions and you can get answers from it. Of course, you don't have to strictly practice Vipassana or do any other strange things for this. They're all good, they're all interesting. That's it. Everyone finds their own little quirk, but you just need to be honest with yourself. That is, the deeper you go into your body, the more silence you find in your mind, the better response you'll get. So it doesn't necessarily have to be some deep practices. I often find answers to my questions simply through sports, running, or some kind of activity. Honestly, it's enough the first thing, and as I explained, in this case, Taoist philosophy really resonated with me. Thought, word, action, where we not only have to think about something, yes, but we also have to say it out loud. We have to manifest it. We have to show ourselves. We have to do it in such a way that it echoes throughout the universe. And the second thing is to do it. This action is the most important part. That is, when we actually take something into our own hands, so to speak, or get moving, right? We run, go to the gym, we sit at the computer and search for something. This is exactly the moment when, even by chance, as people tell me, as I've seen someone stumbles upon a reel, wow, that's interesting, what's this about? Or someone gets a random call from someone and so on. These are the responses from the universe. They come to you exactly to the extent that you are taking action. You start scrolling through your feed reels, shorts, whatever, and then suddenly something amazing starts popping up for you. I believe that our matrix is built on the very same algorithms that the various gurus of information networks use to create this info space for us.
But still, I truly feel like there must be something else that genuinely helps people pick out what will actually work for them. Because if you step into any subway car, I get around by subway too, including in Moscow, because it's just much easier for me to navigate. I love the subway. You sit down and, for sure that after a while, you will arrive at the exact place you need to be. And 99% of people are on their phones, just scrolling through everything. And it's unlikely that all these people in the subway, well, to be fair, in the subway,
they don't really have a goal. Their task is just to kill time. People who are sitting in the subway or working security or somewhere else. But really, when I get on the subway, every single person has a phone. And as a rule, people have about 15 or 20 minutes while they're on their way to work, just killing time. But that's a different matter. I'm talking about having a real need. No one ever comes to me for a session without a specific request. If someone says, I just want to come to you because I feel like it, no, it doesn't work like that. First, you have to truly feel the true vibrations of your own body. I don't know, like when you meet, say, some girl, right? She literally takes your breath away, you feel something jolt inside you, maybe your shoulder twitches, your nose and ears turn red, and so on. You realize that your body has reacted in some way. And if you pay attention to this, instead of just thinking, oh, something's off and I don't get it, then at that moment your body gives a specific response and a request. Interesting, what is this? What could it mean? And this sense of curiosity is exactly the intention that a person works with. Either it should just be a random response, or you consciously form a thought and proceed with it, like I do. I really want something. After that, after setting this intention, I start doing something and things start coming my way. Someone calls, some information pops up on the internet, there are random encounters and so on. But there always has to be some kind of request.
Friends, let me sum up You don't need to pay a ton of money to various info businessmen or attend courses by famous bloggers. You just need to at least realize that you have a request and start doing at least something. And if you don't have a request, by the way, I often use this metaphor too. There's a little boat, a raft that is floating on the water. If it doesn't have a sail, it just drifts well. It'll end up somewhere, wherever it ends up. But if it has a sail and you can steer it in the direction you need, you'll actually get to where you want to go. So friends, at the very least, decide for yourselves that you truly need to change something significant and start thinking in different directions, even just a little bit. Pay very close attention to the signs and symbols of fate, what's truly happening all around you, outside, on social media, in your conversations with friends, maybe even overheard at the next table in a bustling restaurant. So what exactly clicked for you then after the difficult divorce, after you bravely tried again with closing and it unfortunately didn't work out and you hit another frustrating dead end? Could you please tell us a little bit about that particular period? Were you already practicing anything at that time, yoga, qigong?
I wasn't practicing anything, no.
So you weren't doing any physical practices at all. You were involved in entrepreneurial activities. Everything was great, luxurious, and then would you call it a crisis, another kind of crisis of understanding where to go next?
Yes, a crisis, the kind everyone goes through every 5 years or so, right?
And now let's talk about the interesting part. Finally, friends, let's talk about crisis, because I'm sure maybe I'm even going through one right now. And I'm really curious to reflect on this topic, the subject of crisis.
Well, as a rule, if you get stuck on something in life for a long time, life will definitely give you something to test, whether you really want it. Exactly. So it'll take something away from you, right? Or it'll give you some other opportunity so that you'll let go of the previous opportunity. I've had times when I experienced a complete reset. A reset where I had absolutely no money, I had significant loan, I had no job at all, I had truly nothing.
What year was that?
Yeah, that was, about 3 years ago. Yes, 3 years ago when I had nothing.
You've gone through such transformations in just 3 years?
Yes.
That's awesome. Let's keep listening, friends.
And you realize that, first of all, you even want to find someone, your other half, a girlfriend, right? I mean, I didn't have a father or a mother because the relationships were complicated. I didn't have any friends. I only had one apartment, and that was absolutely everything. No car, nothing at all. So at that particular moment in time, I didn't have my kids with me either. Basically because they had stayed in Dubai with my beloved wife, and I simply didn't have the financial means or the money to fly there to be with them.
So the whole situation, of course, made me feel a bit worse.
It's truly the kind of profound situation that makes you pause and deeply reflect to truly think, who exactly am I and what precisely am I? This very significant moment is precisely what I now offer people the unique opportunity to clearly see, and based upon my own extensive experience, to transform themselves much more quickly and effectively as well. And this is the moment when you find yourself alone, right? Basically, I don't know, with just a loaf of bread in the fridge, and you know you have to pay off a loan from your unpaid business. Yeah. So what do you do next? Next comes searching for yourself. Searching for a question to the universe. Who am I? What am I? And at that moment, I can say this. If you've asked yourself such a question, go deep within yourself, into your feelings, into what has ever inspired you and given you the energy to grow. That's why I turn to regression. There's this concept where you go back to some childhood state, when there was no materialism, no money, but there was this feeling that I liked it.
Did you do this as a personal practice or with someone?
I did it all myself.
Intuitively?
Intuitively, by asking myself what actually excites me in life, in principle, what in life gives me energy, what in life gives me the opportunity to change, what in life fills me up, for what purpose am I living this life, And when I asked myself that question, I went back to the state I was in when I was 15 years old, when I first practiced working with energies after reading the only book my father gave me by Juna, where she showed how and what to do. But of course, I didn't understand how this could be monetized or turned into a way to earn a living. I just did it because I was interested in it. I stopped doing it for 25 years, but I understood that this is what I need. This is exactly what gives me the opportunity to live. And then actually, I'll be honest, opened a website on esotericism and began to choose and cross out those positions that didn't suit me. I open it and look there. The numerologist is not me, the psychic is not me, but a genuine shaman, a true spiritual guide.
Shaman?
No, that wasn't me either. Who else is there? Seer. No, not a seer. So there were about 20 or 30 different professions listed there with the names of the people who practice them. I saw them in black masks, in all sorts of outfit switches and so on. I understood that none of those were me, but I needed to figure out who am I. So what then? The universe started sending people my way, let's say people I found interesting or strange in some way. I worked, talked with them, and somehow managed to connect with them. I realized that I was able to identify some of their psychological blocks myself. I realized that this was probably something deeply related to psychology, but also when I worked with the human body, I understood that this was indeed body therapy. Somatic psychology, this is truly what I am profoundly passionate about. So I started looking for effective ways to share this valuable knowledge with people. And then I eventually developed my very own method.
That's a great story. Vadim, can you clearly remember what, at the age of 15, specifically prevented you from further developing this incredibly important individual skill of yours, the ability to truly feel energy and effectively work with it?
Well, a lack of experience was the primary and most significant thing. I had a considerable number of triggers that genuinely scared me, primarily because energy is truly a world of the unknown, and there are no real established rules for precisely how it all fundamentally works. I'm not a clairvoyant or a psychic. I don't have dead people coming to me or anything like that. In other words, it was just improper handling of my own energy that prevented me from really feeling it properly and, most importantly, from truly interacting with other people. Let me give you a clear example. When I was working well, it happened that when I was at the yacht club, there were kids who needed help. Their ears hurt from diving in the water, and someone had to help them. I thought, why don't I try to remove these earplugs and this illness myself with my hand? I don't know how this idea popped into my head or where this skill came from. I have no idea. But I thought, well, let me give it a try. So I started pulling them out. It was interesting. After that, a whole line of these kids formed, and I was removing earplugs for all of them. But then there was a trigger. When I started to relieve the pain would transfer from their head into me. In other words, there were some non-ecological moments. I realized that I was doing something wrong. So I took a break, a pause, because I needed to figure out why it was happening that way, why I was helping people, healing them, and it was working. But I was taking that energy onto myself and making things worse for myself.
Let's clarify this in more detail. How exactly were you removing the pain? Did you just put your hand somewhere, like on the ear, and then through some kind of visualization, through your own sensations, relieve the pain syndrome? How did it work?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Basically, when some kind of significant illness eventually leaves the body, it still often manifests physically, like any noticeable skin abscess or something similar to that. Any illness, it still consistently comes out physically, like through persistent coughing or some other observable symptom. So basically, this visualization combined with physical action specifically, with the hand made it possible to remove the pain. That's it.
I'm clarifying this for the viewers, because otherwise someone might imagine sticking their fingers into their ears and pulling something out. And what does energy have to do with it?
Yes.
No, friends, this is a little bit different. Okay, Actually, a truly huge number of guests who come to me often tell very similar stories about how during their adolescence, apparently, that's a certain significant age of power when something profound manifests itself, sometimes even as early as 7 or 8 years old, depending on the individual person. But it most definitely wasn't later, not in their early 20s or anything like that at all. They recall stories from their childhood or youth, and then each person has their own reasons. Why does it get dulled? And then 20 or 30 years later, they remember, like you did, that yes, I had this in me, and let me try to revive it again. That's it. Have you ever truly considered the profound fact that there are a great many such individuals in existence nowadays, and they continue to consistently appear? Perhaps you should genuinely consider trying to suggest working with this particular audience so that they do not suppress these valuable qualities within themselves. This particular question just came up quite spontaneously for me right now, because what you're doing now, I, as a dedicated yoga instructor, and many other individuals in various helping professions, we predominantly work with the consequences in people, usually those individuals who are 20 or 30 years of age and older for many, many years. But it's entirely possible to create conditions in which these profound traumas won't appear, thanks to the continued development of those very inherent qualities that people like you are able to discover within themselves and cultivate over time. So, do you have anything specific in mind, or perhaps already planned, or for now, are you exclusively working with an adult audience who already come with certain emotional blocks and ingrained patterns?
The person needs to have a request. They need to initiate work on the activities they don't like themselves, not like we did back in our student days. Why did I leave teaching after all? Because students just sit at their desks and you explain to them, guys, please don't make mistakes, work differently. And what do you see? That most people, when you explain things to them, are busy doing something else, I don't know, watching Instagram or something else and not doing anything useful. That's why, as a rule, only people who already have some problem they can't solve come to sessions and practice. For women, that's from about 35 years old, and for men, from about 40. That's the segment you can really work with, yes. And as for promoting to people, telling them, guys, please start doing yoga, you'll see the benefits in the future, it doesn't really work that way. No, unfortunately, people learn only from their own mistakes. No matter how much we as parents tell our children, don't do that, it'll be worse later. Every person has to feel it physically, as I say, as a body therapist, a real trigger, like, damn, that was really bad. I was really just surviving. My entire body was literally vibrating with an intense nausea from something, to the point where I profoundly realized I never ever want to go back to that terrible state again. It has to be a trigger experience through the body emotionally. This is one of those techniques, I think, it well as a yoga master, that allows you to reach a certain level of awareness. We need to experience all emotions through the body. We have to feel the entire spectrum of what we've gone through and choose the position that allows us only to be filled up, not drained.
But at the same time, if at 15 you had met a master who could truly help you answer your questions, for example, how not to take on someone else's pain during therapy, it's quite possible that you would have gone much further and by the age of 20 already become a great master. And by today,
if I had had that need, I would have found such a master, just as I do now. When a person has a need, they'll move mountains, they'll find a way, they'll fly wherever they need to, and so on. Apparently, I didn't have that kind of need. For some reason, I just put it aside and decided to do something else, something I found more interesting. That's all there is to it. I just didn't need it that much back then.
Vadim, you're a body therapist, so tell me, where exactly did you learn all of this? These skills?
Yes, I got a diploma as a body-oriented psychologist so that I could show people, if needed, that I really am someone with a higher education. Of course, no one has ever actually asked me for it, but I do have a diploma. for my subscribers, for my listeners, please know that I am a specialist. And after that, I had a number of mentors whom I listened to. I picked up certain techniques that allowed me to transform and to believe in myself and my abilities. That's why there was a period when I attended various courses and master classes. And from those people who resonated with me, I took the main concepts of what body therapy actually is, because it's vast. And the range of bodywork methods is enormous. Yoga is also a body practice, essentially, just like Qigong and everything else. But still, I decided to base my approach on having people work in pairs so that there would be an opportunity to go deeper into the segment of altered states. It's very difficult for a person to enter an altered state on their own. They still try to control things with their mind. But when there's an opportunity to do this in pairs, it produces a much deeper effect. So there was this particular stage where gradually, by carefully observing different masters, I eventually created this method as a whole, and then later incorporated some of my own original elements.
Can you name the people to whom you are especially grateful, whose significant influence can be clearly seen in your current method?
Well, basically, yes. One of my main teachers was Vladimir Golopachuk, because he gave me the opportunity to feel what an energy wave is, what vibration is, and in general, what the human body is and how it conducts these sensations. And yes, that's basically it. Yes, after that, I moved on.
Everything was intuitive.
And then I just followed my intuition, trusting the process of unfolding, so to speak, of some inner state. The sensations that I had experienced over the years started to surface how I could feel people even as a master. And also, I have a lot of students, but not all of them are masters, and far from all of them are body therapists. Just, what kind of background does a person have, right? In order to be able to work and help other people.
Let's go back then to that interesting period when you were pushing off from rock bottom, when you didn't have any friends. By the way, why didn't you have any friends? With your wife, that's understandable. Kids?
I did have friends from school and university. And in the period after student life, that's 20 years of marriage, kids, and a completely different life where your college friends fade into the background because everyone has their own schedules.
Well, yes, as you get older, there are fewer, but there are business interactions.
Business-wise, I was an entrepreneur, so everything that happened was exclusively for me, yes, within the family itself.
By the way, share your opinion. Is this normal or not? Because this is classic. With my childhood friend, it just so happened that we grew up together in Liberty. Then he moved to Novoslobodskaya, and I moved to a nearby place, Dostoevskaya, so neighboring stations. And now, even though we live like just 10 minutes walk from each other, we only meet, maybe once a year. Why is that, by the way? Is that normal or not? Is it somehow connected to personal boundaries or focusing more on family? In your opinion, is it worth working on this, or is it all individual? Or if a person needs it, if they have the desire, they'll deal with it anyway. But in the end, you might end up where you are now, right? Like no wife, no kids, well, basically no contact with them right now, no parents, not even any friends left in Moscow, even though the Moscow region is just 20,000 minutes away.
That period really did happen, and now everything has been fully restored, 100%. So right now, I have the best possible relationships with absolutely all areas of my life. I've reconnected with all my friends with whom I had lost contact for 20 years. I've also restored good relationships and connections with my ex-wife, my parents, and so on. Absolutely. With what? Right? Thanks to the consistent practices that I diligently do, they have profoundly allowed me, first and foremost, to truly forgive everyone who was at fault in some way, to fully accept them into my life as a kind of invaluable teachers who generously gave me the profound opportunity to truly feel myself and my purpose in this life. And now I completely understand that I'm absolutely and wonderfully free. I no longer have those negative attachments to any person or circumstance that used to drain me, because the experience that I've gained is truly thanks to them. Honestly, I can genuinely say that I'm deeply grateful to all those people who, at some point in time, tried to destroy me, because they ultimately gave me the invaluable opportunity to grow and develop.
Friends, so think about it if you are currently going through a very similar period in your life. If for some reason you feel that someone has truly betrayed you or something is deeply wrong with your friends, you've had a significant falling out with them or with your relatives, your family members, then perhaps it makes sense to look much deeper into yourself. And if we're talking about relatives and friends, to truly forgive them. Something significant will shift in the space around you, and your relationships will certainly start to improve. By the way, in your opinion, what exactly happens in the space around us? You forgive someone internally, your offenders, for example. You forgive your family, your friends. So how is it that the connections get restored? You don't call me and say, I forgave you. So how does it all come together? Or is there some kind of communication involved? And well, let's take the example of parents.
Well, let's use parents as an example. After all, relationships with parents are always the most incredibly complicated and intricate, because they profoundly desire something significant from you in this life, so that you can truly fulfill some of their deeply held ambitions and cherished desires within the material world they've meticulously created, right? They are the ones who brought you into existence, their very own son. So that means you owe them something. And at some point, when you don't meet or achieve your parents' expectations, you get this kind of message that you're somehow not worthy. So that's why, if you take the position that, Dad, Mom, I love you very much, but I'm going to live the life that I create for myself. And if your actions are preventing me from developing creatively on my own, then I have no choice but to stop communicating with you. This is the first step in setting boundaries, so that you aren't abused, so that there isn't any toxicity in your relationship with your parents. The first position is to prevent any attacks from their side.
You said this to them directly, right?
Of course, that's the first position. This is the position of a strong person. When you truly understand that no matter what challenging circumstances may arise, you can absolutely survive without them, and indeed exist independently without their constant presence. You then accept with profound gratitude their invaluable experience, their precious time, and the deep, unwavering love they so generously devoted to you. You accordingly express this heartfelt gratitude back to them. And after that, something truly very interesting and almost magically transformative happens. When they themselves fully realize, well, our son has grown up, that's it. That is, they truly understand, they truly feel it. He has his own real masculine or feminine position in which he is independent. It's at this moment that really great things happen, when your energy in the form of strength, in the form of certain opportunities, doesn't just disappear somewhere for no reason. And if it doesn't just disappear somewhere for no reason, and most importantly, all energy practitioners know that the first issue you need to resolve is with your parents. That's the most important thing. The second point, yes, is with those around you. If you've resolved that issue, your energy for new opportunities basically doubles or triples right away. And if you also get your parents' blessing, that's it. It's a game changer. That means you get a tenfold increase right away, which is exactly what I did. I said, Dad, Mom, I understand you might have something to say to me, but I've made my choice. I want to become a body therapist. What do you think? They said, son, well, oh, and by the way, I'm over 40 years old. Son, of course, we support any of your wishes, any idea you have. So basically, with that thought in mind, I went and started working.
And initially, why did you ask for their blessing? Was it because you realized that on an energetic level it would be easier for you to walk this path, or did you have, or was there another motive? This is a revelation, this is a blessing.
I would have certainly done precisely what I had always wanted to do anyway. And they feel that I mean, anyone understands that when someone comes to them with a request and says, "Can I go?" you can feel that, well, you don't really have a choice in the matter. But the profound feeling that your parents genuinely support you, that they are truly in your corner, it unequivocally gives you more extensive and diverse opportunities for personal growth and self-fulfillment. Parents, whether you consciously want it or not, inherently play the crucial and foundational role of primary mentors, first and foremost in your life, guiding your initial steps. And if your personal vibes, your deepest desires, and your aspirations align harmoniously with theirs, then those shared energies and ambitions just get powerfully amplified right away, leading to greater success and contentment. That's why it's one of the reasons why many people, even as adults, still come to their parents and still ask for advice, and that's normal.
Vadim, how old are your children? Have you already had this kind of conversation with them?
15, 13, and 8.
So it's early.
Yes,
Let's get back to scrolling your feed and finding answers. Did you find Godwatchek that way, just scrolling your feed, or how did it happen? How did you end up at his seminar?
I had a lot of different people. Naturally, he wasn't the first. That's right. There were many different representatives of that movement, which was becoming very popular. And through them, I would diligently look for and actively reach out to the founders, to those individuals who resonated with me the most. I was truly looking for a master, someone who could calmly and clearly explain precisely how it works without any unnecessary emotions or that typical glossy, superficial info business facade where people often talk a lot but actually do very little.
Listen, I agree with you. I attended one of his seminars last March, Spring Thunder, the II training. What you're saying is true. He's not for everyone, especially those with a sensitive disposition, because everything there.
Yes, it's pretty tough. You could even get hit on the forehead with a sleeper. Of course.
Yeah. And what's truly interesting is this significant turning point when you fully realize that you were indeed sending people an energy wave, because, Vladimir was sitting right here in this very same chair just a few months ago, and we mostly talked both here and at the seminar about a kind of, let's say, a health promoting effect of the energy wave, right? About effectively keeping the body in a healthy, energetic state. But we didn't really go deep into working with psychological blocks or anything of that nature. I suspect you didn't find that in his training either. Of course, there might have been something at other seminars. What started to happen? How did you start to extract this knowledge that some kind of psychological trauma can be extracted through this technique?
Well, the most important thing is that I was truly able to successfully do this even before I attended any courses.
Yes.
This is the feature that I had in my hands in my words. Because I need to say something to a person, press on a certain place, find a trigger point in the body. The key question, yes, is the element of how, in what state a person should be. Here, I'll be honest, this happened to me randomly during sex with girls. I experienced transformations. The girls cried. I didn't understand what was happening. Because sex and orgasms can truly only happen in an altered, deeply immersive state, when a person is fully immersed in their own physical body, when they effectively disconnect from the entire outside world, when they truly feel themselves in that profound state and genuinely live in the present moment. There's the concept of here and now. That's the moment. And in that very moment, if you truly catch it, you can manifest and create that very psychotherapeutic moment that I create for people. That's precisely why my unique method is about applying this very sacred, I would confidently say powerful technique, which I meticulously developed into the Neurowave Methoda comprehensive approach that other practitioners typically do not offer. And that is, we can use certain words, create specific triggers with hand movements and so on. This is exactly that moment. I can say that no one else is teaching this, and I would have gladly learned it from someone, but there was honestly no one serious to learn from. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not interested in things like energetic orgasms or just making girls convulse. Magnificent Taoist philosophy, incredible knowledge in terms of the overall interaction of energies within the human body. It's all great, it's cool, but where is the true depth, the profound depth that truly allows us to release that childhood tension from the body, the one that regrettably got stuck when we were triggered at the tender age of 4? Like, for example, there have been many cases in my clients' lives where they truly don't understand why they simply cannot enjoy sex with their own husband, the man they've lived with for over 20 long years. Because when she was 4 years old, she was rapida trauma the girl doesn't even remember or know about, because her body hid it so deeply and her subconscious erased it so it wouldn't surface. And only later, when we start digging into this, uncovering the block and letting it go, he or she begins to enjoy life, and the marriage accordingly becomes stronger and the quality improves. We say that marriage also relies on sex. It also depends on what happens in bed, right? Because we should be able to enjoy life. And it's precisely this aspect that I've discovered, which I include in my practices so that we can go deeper and identify the triggers. Uh, Sometimes these might be regression techniques, yes. Sometimes it's simply about experiencing the emotion, finding it, releasing that tension from the body, and the person leaves happy with some new, really realizing that, yes, I can actually do this.
Mm. Can you remember any of those early cases when you realized that you weren't just interested in sending a wave, but that you were actually interested in releasing some kind of psychological block in the body? Can you recall any of your first clients when you got confirmation that your hypothesis was incorrect?
The very first and most important thing probably is when you even send a request to the group saying, now we're going to have an incredibly energetic orgasm, and I immediately see that half of the entire group starts crying. Yeah. So I think, well, damn, that's kind of strange. After that, I change the field. Well, the field changes with words and actions. I say, guys, let's work deeper. And after that, when we go into that depth, why is the person crying, right? Well, let's say we pay attention to it. We don't just step over it or ignore it, so to speak. We have a shared feel here. We're here to truly enjoy ourselves, and you're just crying, getting in everyone's way. Come on, perhaps you should really take a short break or step completely out of the room. So, that particular moment, I never actually had it. And that was the main trigger that made me realize, okay, guys, now I'm going to develop a different structure for my training. First, we remove psychological blocks from the body. The first module, yes, is about releasing psychological blocks. And only then do we move on to pleasure and enjoyment. And that's the essence of my entire method. We can't experience pleasure in life until we remove the blocks from the body, the triggers that prevent us from feeling fulfilled. So, how do these very triggers appear? They are certain beliefs we hold, beliefs that first and foremost I can't do something or I'm not worthy of something, right? Why is that? Because somewhere along the way you heard it from your father or mother. That's it. And most importantly, there's no honesty with ourselves, right? I always tell my foreign audience, be honest by yourself. The essential point is for you to be able to truly trust yourself more completely and accordingly to trust the entire world around you. So this is precisely the significant moment when what is profoundly happening now in the various practices gives a completely different and much deeper understanding in the new and evolving reality of life. I would certainly put it that way.
Vadim, how exactly are these psychological blocks, these mental barriers, resolved in a truly universal way in the very first module? What you're talking about, yes, the initial block, the foundational one. After all, everyone comes with their own trauma. Some have experienced violence, others have different problems. Well, if it's not a secret, right? What do you do to resolve each person's internal block with a single wave, so to speak, again, a wave? How many people are usually in the group 15, 20? I'm not sure how many, but each person comes with their own traumatic story.
It's interesting when 20 people come in and I give them the opportunity to express. their intention, why they came here. And they say things like, well, I'm an entrepreneur and earning 1 million a month isn't enough for me. I want to make 3 million. I say, okay. Someone says, I want to find my soulmate. That's my problem. Okay. The next person might say, well, I truly want to improve my relationship with my parents. And I also want to travel all over the world and not want for anything at all, and so on, with various other aspirations. I think, okay, do I look like Father Frost or Santa Claus? Am I supposed to grant your wishes now? And how am I supposed to fulfill all your wishes and intentions in just one, let's say, training session? Naturally, these are the wishes and intentions that a person sets for themselves as a kind of mindset. But the techniques are all the same. But the practice is the same for everyone. And that's the whole entire point. The individual person works on their own, releasing these internal blocks and obstacles. And the partner during the practice gives the opportunity to go deeper, to not jump out of that state, as often happens when practicing alone at home. That is to say, there are a significant number of people who find it challenging to fully trust themselves, especially those who are considered masters. The sacred space that is created allows them to be in this profound state, in complete trust. Accordingly, the emotional block simply opens up and releases within the powerful emotion. A person might deeply cry, loudly scream, experience a profound orgasm, or engage in any other expressive action at all. Any emotion is allowed. And then a thought comes to me, damn, wow, what was that? Bzzz. Then there's a reset, and after some time they receive information. What was that? They say, I've never cried in my life, right? Especially men, that is. I had a woman in my practice, this was in Budapest. She was 45 years old and had never cried in her life. The woman didn't cry, didn't allow herself to, because her father would think she was a weak daughter. A weak daughter. Well, probably he wanted a boy, and so on and so forth. And that's why the person isn't emotional, can't experience things. And naturally, it's important to give a person the opportunity to express themselves differently, to feel themselves differently. And this is exactly the moment when, in just one training session or course, we can simply release an emotion and the person receives the very information and answer to the question or request they came with.
So how do these group trainings differ from your individual sessions? You also do individual sessions, right? In that case, you're the facilitator, correct? And you're the one who initiates all these processes, who starts the wave. And these personal sessions are also connected to initiating the wave, right?
Yes, that's right. The point. What exactly is it? We're talking about the wave here, and this wave is simply a physical sensation within the body, much like something gently moving through the body in the form of a flowing wave. The method I'm talking about, Neurowave, assumes that we create a new experience in the body, forming it as neural connections that link together and allow the body to feel sensations differently than it did before, or to feel things it previously didn't allow itself to feel. Let's put it this way. Movement, energy, for some reason it flows. It flows through certain channels, through the muscles and so on. In my understanding, it flows specifically along the neural pathways, which are located where? In the human body. And when I do this in personal sessions, I, as a practitioner, simply do it much faster. Yes, my sessions last 2 hours. Since I have a lot of tools, I quickly move from a healthy state to a third state and give the person the opportunity to get results quickly. If a person truly desires to experience the full and complete range of human emotions and engage in meaningful interactions with other people, and also to effectively solve certain complex issues or intricate requests that are inherently multifaceted, not just simple, straightforward 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, then of course it is undoubtedly better to come to the comprehensive training program. Because by going through one technique, then another and a third person transforms themselves, and they can essentially find their own path over the course of a day or during a 3 or 4 day course. Like retreats, you understand perfectly well. From day to day, a person undergoes transformation. The issue they came with on the first day, by the second or third day, they realize what they initially brought is no longer as important or interesting. and they move forward with something else. That's why I always recommend, of course, that people join longer programs, courses, retreats, and so on, which I conduct in different countries. But if someone has an urgent issue that really needs to be resolved right away, then they come for a personal session.
The masters I know who run similar trainings have a certain percentage of people who just don't get started. Do you have the same kind of percentage? For example, out of 20 people, 4 don't get started?
Yes, thank you for this question. It's very important to me. Since I have a 100% conversion rate, if you can call it that.
No way.
Yes. Why? Because I absolutely do not leave anyone unattended. If I clearly see that someone isn't actively working, I will come over and at precisely the right moment, I personally give them a little gentle push myself and effectively get that person started. There are actually plenty of ways to get a person started, to make them feel those vibrations within themselves. The key is the master's attention to that particular person. I think that's probably my superpower in these practices. Because a person has paid money, they've invested their time, they've really come to the course, to the training, they're truly in pain, and to just leave them unattended, so they walk away from me still carrying that pain, then what the hell am I even here for? I mean, what's the point? I'm truly supposed to help them. I genuinely believe it's kind of my inherent duty or essential service, to those people who have given me their attention, trusted me, and who have come to me.
So other coaches most likely either for some reason can't get those who are stuck to move forward, or they just don't pay enough attention to it.
Well, that's what they tell me anyway. I mean, people come to me from other coaches too, from those we've mentioned, those we've talked about, they still end up coming to me. And I have to work with these kinds of people.
Why do some people fail to make progress?
Well, first of all, they simply don't pay enough careful attention to the entire process they're going through. They just don't fully understand what they are truly supposed to do. A significant number of people tend to rely heavily on pure logic, on clear cause and effect reasoning. They meticulously analyze absolutely everything, and their active minds are always constantly working and processing. And then there's that moment when we turn off the mind, right? The question is, how do we do that? That's the most important thing. If you pay close enough attention to each person, then absolutely anyone can do it. That's all there is to it. You just need to immerse yourself more in the state of, I can do this. And that's where, a kind of mentor, a parent, or some truly trusted person just gently puts a hand on your shoulder and says, go ahead, you can absolutely do it. Come on, really trust yourself. That particular moment is really, really important.
You mentioned trust. So this is also a question of trusting oneself.
First, trusting yourself. Second, trusting the person you've come to.
So one of the reasons people don't get started with these techniques is that for some reason they don't trust themselves. Well, that's probably due to fears, right? Some anxieties.
What if something happens?
Yeah.
What if I just lie here and they cut me into pieces? In other words, they're afraid of their own potential for expression, of what might come out. What if I start screaming too? So, for example, in a group setting, right, there's someone lying on the left doing the practice, someone on the left is screaming, someone on the right is having an orgasm. Yeah. And then they're like, damn, what's going on? So that's how it is.
And could it be that, on the contrary, they actually want this with their mind, but it still doesn't work out? Maybe there's a blockage deeper.
Yes, that's possible too. There are a lot of situations where a block gets triggered. That's precisely why there's a very gradual and careful preparation for the individual, so that this essential trust can fully develop. And then, as it subsequently turned out, yes, no one ever truly taught me the art of hypnosis. But leading and highly respected masters, experienced hypnologists can clearly see that I inherently possess this particular ability. And sometimes I even ask, who should I go to for training? They tell me, you already know all of this. Yeah. Why? Because I just feel it. And that's basically the answer to your question, right? The most important thing is to say the right necessary word. After all, good, effective hypnotic techniques, first and foremost, work through words. When you simply tell a person you can do it, you will succeed, you will manage. Really? Yes, really, you will succeed. Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure you will succeed. And in these moments, when a person gives you some kind of objection, you say, you're doing great, that's right, you can go deeper, you can. And they go, yes, 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 yes. And the body starts to click, 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 switching on, activating. I realize that I'm moving along the level. We're going tune, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper. I look and his pupils are already showing signs. He's starting to feel vibrations throughout his body. And I haven't even physically touched him yet. I just gave the person permission that he could go there. That's it.
Tell me about your first experience, your first launch. When did that happen? Did you manage to launch right away?
Yes, that's exactly the point. My intention was to learn to take the tool and learn how to launch others, to feel the vibrations. But it turned out that I felt it before everyone else. I think that's the main sign that made me realize I'm sensitive, I can do it myself. And if I can do it myself, then I can do it for others too.
Well, do you remember that first seminar? You just lay down and everything worked right away?
Yes, what's there to remember? I lay down and it worked.
Why does an energy wave, a neural wave, occur?
The energy that moves through the body, right? In any case, it manifests as a wave. The question is why it flows and how it feels. And when we talk about the experience, right, the profound experience that truly happens within a person's body, it always connects in the very form. In the form of flashes of neural connections, which, if they are emotionally experienced by the person through the body, then they turn out to be quite strong. You understand perfectly well, and now it's a very popular topic, is the formation of new neural connections. I can clearly see this through the body, how it happens, I feel it, and I give others the opportunity to feel it too. And most importantly, it is visualized. It clearly shows that it is a wave, and everything in life is a wave. Electricity is a wave. Everything, anything is also a wave. And if you actually send a wave through the body, then a greater number of neural connections are formed. The muscle, so to speak, will truly come alive, will start to vibrate. You will feel a certain pleasure from the fact that you are already capable of something more.
All right, very well. Let's recall your situation again. You're at the seminar, you lie down on the mat. Who were you with? A girl, a guy? Who was the one initiating you?
A girl.
A girl. She comes up to you, and what exactly triggers this initiation? Explain it in the simplest terms for viewers. Because if you watch reels or videos, it kind of looks like some sort of magic. A person is lying there, and suddenly they start twitching, and you can't really explain what it is.
But there are actually quite a few ways to initiate a person and make them feel the vibrations. For some, just a slight touch is enough. For others, just a look, and for some, maybe a gentle stroke. The sensations can be very different. We clearly understand that when a person is in anticipation and really wants something, right? And if we imagine that it's some kind of sexual, intimate scene, then just from the vibration, from a touch, the person is already vibrating. Exactly. So yes, it was that touch. Those were touches, they were prepared, they were sensitive, and from them came that very vibration that created something. Back then, I didn't quite understand it. It just gave some kind of impulsive sensation. In order to achieve the effect of forming all the neural connections, time needs to pass. It won't work the first time because it's kind of, how can I put it, unclear if you've ever felt excitement and your first orgasmic sensation, you know, your body trembles, you don't understand what's happening. Then you start to somehow distribute this sensation, to let it saturate your body. That was the first principle what is actually happening. The body jerked somehow.
I was just discussing this topic with Vladimir. It's still not fully understood, but one of the hypotheses I mentioned, and he agreed with it, though there are probably many other possibilities, is that at first he brought out and demonstrated with a young girl who had been in this rock and roll scene for a very long time. He placed his hand on her and she just whoosh, everything just took off, lit up. We immediately split into pairs and tried it for the first time. We split into pairs. I lay down on mat, she put her hand on my chest, and immediately I'm feeling waves throughout my body. That was an insight for me. How is that possible? I've tried so many different bodywork techniques over the years, and here a girl just put her hand on me, but she's not a trainer. She also just came to the seminar. That's it. And my theory, my hypothesis is that through the organs of vision, the brain picked up this rather vivid image and then projected it onto my personal experience. That's it.
Well, here I would actually say everything quite works perfectly. Is it just one thing, right? You understand perfectly well that to achieve a deeper effect, you need to get everything right. Color, light, scent, people, a certain person, certain touches. There are so many of them. There are people who spin balls and so on. That is everything that led you to this feeling. Absolutely everything is unique. And it's exactly what was created for you in that moment. For some people, that's not enough. They need something more.
Can you recall any truly vivid examples, perhaps specific cases from your own personal extensive experiences, right? Consultations with various people who have successfully resolved a particular issue, maybe even in just one single session. Or maybe you actually resolve everything in just one session with you. What are the main issues that men and women come to you with?
Well, the main and most important thing is to truly feel their own physical body. In what precise sense? New and exciting vibrations that are being created that completely fill their entire lives. A life that unfortunately doesn't bring them any real pleasure at all. They have money, a car, I don't know, a family, children, and so on, but there's no quality of life. And they understand perfectly well that it's not all about material things. It's all about their own feelings, about how a person experiences this life. There are people, as you well understand, who can come to a beach in the Maldives. They have the sea, the sand, everything is white. They're given coconuts, everything is there, but nothing brings them joy. Well, back to the sea again. How much of this can you take? They're truly tired of the Maldives. This is precisely the moment when people are so completely blocked, so utterly clogged up, that they simply cannot even get the simplest pleasure from their immediate surroundings. They stuff themselves with food just to get at least some kind of pleasure, or with alcohol or something else. Some use drugs. That's it. What life gives them just doesn't get through to their bodies. And this is the most important question. How do you truly feel your physical body and awaken your inherent sensitivity? The second question is to find your life path. Who am I? What am I? I've achieved everything up to a certain level. I'm 45 years old, but I have no idea what I'm living for, what I need in life now. In other words, there is no clearly defined position, no energy that would allow me to move forward. There's a business, there are millions, I have everything. What next? What? And this is the moment when we go deeper into the body and unlock those very sensations that fill a person up. Naturally, there are moments, well, in the second scenario, yes, when a person can't do something, when they're experiencing some kind of malaise, psychological issues, I mean, right? And then these psychological ailments start to manifest physically, right? The most recent case was with a woman who came, and she's a major entrepreneur, runs a huge industry, has thousands of people reporting to her, and travels to different workshops. She can't understand why she has headaches. What happened? How can this be resolved? She's seen a psychotherapist, a neurologist, everyone, right? And then she came to see me. I said, okay, let's get to work. But when we started working together, her body reacted. She bent in half. I asked, "What's going on? What happened? What are you feeling?" That's my question, right? So she says, "My uncle is standing there." I ask, "What do you mean standing?" She says, "He just bends me over, pressing my shoulders down." I ask, "What does he want?" "He wants me to work more and better." She feels that she's obligated to work hard a lot, to do many things, but not because she wants to. She is fulfilling her uncle's wishes, who, of course, is not going to love her or have any personal significance for her. That's it. And this control, hyper responsibility, and so on, naturally cause some very painful feelings in her mind. What a question. Work with the uncle? Well, remove him from the body, remove this tension, get rid of it using various psychological techniques that I am currently applying. I'm not just a body therapist, right? There's a lot of psychology involved here. You need to talk here, you need to find triggers, and so on. So these unwanted substances are effectively removed from the human body. And every time, with every course, there's some new case that comes up, one I've never worked with before in my life. And I'm really interested in how I can help the person. I realize that now I'm dealing less with psychology and more with physics. And I have osteopaths and kinesiologists coming to me whom I teach activating deep muscles, muscle layers, so that a person feels and perceives themselves differently, their posture changes, and so on, because they can't get to this with their own methods. I've developed this technique and now I demonstrate and teach it to them. And again, how is this possible? Because I'm curious. I'm genuinely interested in how I can go deeper into this issue.
A common problem for many people is lower back pain, herniated discs in the lower back. Have you figured out this issue? Do you help people get rid of this pain?
So far, I haven't had such requests. Honestly, I'm only now starting to move into physiology. Again, why is that? I just started posting reels. One person reached out. Yes, I posted a reel and they said, you help people. That's great. Can you help me too? I said, well, let's try. So basically, you could say I don't turn people away. If I see that someone really just needs to see a massage therapist, guys, not me, or if I realize that what's needed here is some stretching or something else, I'll say so. That's it. But if it's a deeper issue, when someone says, I've tried everything, I've seen all the doctors, I've worked on so many things, tried all the techniques, but nothing helps. All right, let's give it a try. That's the kind of situation that becomes interesting for me.
What are some of the most striking examples from your recent or overall experience of people releasing internal blocks thanks to your method?
Well, in terms of emotions, basically everyone screams, cries. That's to be expected. Yeah. Here the question is to what extent? To what extent a person physically, how should I put it? We're talking about psycho-emotional blocks now, right?
Yes, that's right.
Psycho-emotional blocks.
They're in the body. Well, for example, some kind of resentment or betrayal or fears, they all get trapped in the body. And when you discover and pull them out, that's what happens.
Let me tell you about a case that happened fairly recently. A young woman came to a session as a model and complained of a certain persistent pain in her chest. She said, I just can't get out whatever is here. She was already physically feeling some kind of pressure in this area, and she had worked with all the psychologists, forgiven everyone, gone through all the regressions, let everything go. She said, but still, something is sitting here, some nonsense. I don't understand what it is. When I started initiating the Neurowave and we went deeper into the issue of the state she was experiencing there, she said, I don't understand why, but I feel like I want to say that my son is inside me. I said, what do you mean your son is inside you? She replied, well, she said, he died. I said, okay. But she said, I haven't let him go, not at all. In other words, she experienced this trauma so intensely that, in a sense, and a psychological level of deep trauma, her son got stuck in her soul. That's it. And naturally, she couldn't let him go. So, what did we actually do? We helped her release him from her body. We worked through this block using my techniques. In the end, she was finally able to take a deep breath and say goodbye. On the one hand, you could say, to the thought that now he can live peacefully and now she can live without him. This is exactly that profound moment when someone tragically dies, or when there's some significant circumstance that connected us to someone, to a business, to a former spouse, or to someone who held an important place in your life, and that person will never return to your life again. You have to let them go, because holding on is truly destructive. And this situation, of course, initially started as a mere thought, and then gradually turned into a block that was physically felt within the person's body. We simply worked through it and released it. She took a deep, deep breath and finally began to live an entirely new and fulfilling life, because she hadn't been able to let new possibilities for joy, pleasure, wonderful experiences, a new man, and exciting new events into her life, because all her thoughts were only about that and nothing else.
I don't think that's exactly exorcism. We worked on her mindset with some adjustments, plus used your body-based methods, and that's it. Everything is in the head. It's all totally in the head.
Yes, the question is to what extent and how can I explain this to the audience? In this case, I explain it in a way that my audience, your audience, can understand that I am not an exorcist and that there's nothing mysterious or unclear going on here.
Friends, but if you want Vadim to be your exorcist, that's absolutely fine. I even saw the prices listed on the website. Everything is publicly available. Call it whatever you want. Neurowave, the neurosurfer. By the way, what exactly do you call the specialists you train and develop?
They are generally called masters, and it's important to note that they are not body therapists. Instead, they are skilled masters who can effectively create practices or conduct personalized sessions using my established method. So basically, with this powerful tool, they can do exactly what I do: help people and earn a good income. There was a really great example. A woman came in with a block around self-expression. She performs on stage, but for some reason she can't step out of her comfort zone and show herself, to say, I am capable of more. That is to perform more effectively, to sing more beautifully, and ultimately to publish her videos and so on social media platforms. So people who have genuine talents, real talents that others are truly ready to hear often, have psychological blocks. This block around self-expression is located right here. Some people say it's in the throat chakra, but really it's just an energy structure that gets released quite easily during my practices. As a direct result, of course, I always diligently ask those individuals who have successfully completed my comprehensive training or specialized course. And a couple of days later, they enthusiastically report back that she indeed performed on a very big stage, someone else spoke eloquently at some important conference, and so on. But this is the very case that has actually already been published on my website. There are a lot of testimonials. I strongly encourage you to follow the link, go to my profile and take a look, because unfortunately, within the scope of this recording, we simply can't cover everything. And most importantly, listen to what people say after the practices, right? How much their lives have genuinely changed, how much more they have truly allowed themselves to fully have, to deeply feel, and to truly enjoy lives every moment. And there was another interesting case. During the course, one of the students shared some news, and what's more, only 1 out of 3 full days of the course had practically finished. And during the extended lunch break, he suddenly realized that he had finally and successfully closed a significant deal with his business partner. He was selling gold in its physical form and managed to successfully close a truly huge deal worth many millions of dollars, which now allows him to live quite comfortably for many, many years to come. This significant moment really inspired not just him, but indeed the entire group, and strongly motivated all of us to diligently keep practicing and improving.
All right. On this channel, we stand for honesty. So let's be real sometimes, especially info businessmen do this. There are a million people in the course, but only 5 reviews. Thanks to this course, I became super rich and successful. Where exactly is the concrete evidence that he sold all of this gold thanks to these practices and subsequently became a very wealthy person?
Well, the main and most important factor, yes, is that a person truly needs to proactively call and diligently find out the necessary information, because you can only really talk about it publicly and confidently boast about it when you truly and deeply understand that the energy you are creating is actually and significantly changing and evolving. And if you lie, let's put it that way, to your master and to people, then obviously your whole life is a lie, and nothing in your life can change. So why did you even come in the first place? That's precisely why the individuals who provide feedback, typically on my channel or directly at the retreat, are genuinely sharing their own profoundly personal experiences.
No, I don't mean that he might be lying, but rather, how can we, using the most scientific language possible on the level of energy, release, and so on, demonstrate that it was specifically thanks to the practices that this deal happened, and not just a coincidence. That's exactly what I'm talking about. So that the audience can trust even more.
Absolutely right. At first, I was really surprised by this. How is this even possible? When I was just starting out on my own path, I really didn't understand how these practices could have such an impact. But then I found a clear connection, a link and interaction. How exactly does unblocking really allow you to attract more money or, for example, open up some new opportunities? It's actually very simple. If there is some kind of block in our space that prevents our body from vibrating, we all clearly understand that we are all vibrational beings. So, in fact, our space is closed off to any new thought or new idea coming in. We are blinkered, we are closed off, we don't see anything, not even a potential partner. And it turns out when the block is removed, interesting ideas start coming. Interesting, cool. What is this? And this world of possibilities, which always exists around us, starts to become real. So first we catch these thoughts, they surprise us, and then we start to do something. We call someone, we grab our computer, we go somewhere, we're already shaking with excitement. I want this, I want this, I want this. This is exactly the moment when the block disappears and we create a new reality. And what form does it take? Does it come as money or something else? Everyone has their own happiness. That's the only way I can explain how our lives start to change after these practices.
But at the same time, people are definitely missing out on something, because if they weren't, then after every seminar, everyone would be selling something or finding their own personal happiness, whether material or non-material. They just don't take full advantage of this opportunity.
They miss out, and when we buy some course, it doesn't mean that we'll become millionaires afterwards. And a lot of people get an education, pay millions for mentorship and so on. But the question is, you have to actually do something for it, not just acquire knowledge. So the act of shifting responsibility onto someone else, or indeed onto external circumstances, especially after the entire situation has concluded, absolutely should not occur. That's why I say the most important thing for a person after finishing the course, what we have as the most important thing, know is developing sensitivity. So please catch your triggers. Don't just sit still and don't go back to the lifestyle you had before you started the practice. Don't lie down on that same couch. Don't grab a bottle of beer really. Notice what has changed. Why did you suddenly feel like going somewhere? Why did someone call you? In other words, a person keeps working, basically, just like they always have. It's just that At this moment, why is it that for some people, why doesn't life work out for them after the course? Why doesn't it change? Why don't they get some money or find their own path? Because basically they don't really want anything. That's it. The person just came because his ex-wife or someone else brought him and said, just sit there, maybe something will work out. But if after that he really keeps working, stays curious about everything, then of course things will start to change for him.
A brief summary. Friends, here are some important recommendations. Attend various seminars, because that's precisely where you can effectively break out of old patterns, gain valuable new knowledge, and with a fair degree of probability, if you consistently stay open to all of this and to the eventual outcomes, then things will certainly start to change afterwards. And as we mentioned at the beginning of today, try to carefully read the signs all around you and then take some decisive action, because by that point, the ground will already be more or less adequately prepared. Well, I can also share from my own experience that this really does work. It's one thing when you're stuck in a rut, caught up in everyday hustle and work, and everything just feels the same. Then you jump out like a squirrel out of a wheel into something new. The external picture changes, you gain new knowledge, your internal states shift, and somehow everything starts to align, just as Joe Dispenza says, happens on the quantum level. In short, things start to fall into place. Okay, we've sorted out the money topic. Let's move on to the topic of sex, which you already started to touch on. Vadim, have you figured out why people lose the sense of pleasure from sex? Both men and women alike. People come with this issue, saying that somehow the passion has faded and there's no pleasure in it anymore.
Well, naturally, the sensations have dulled. Everything is monotonous, uninteresting. So, what kind of sex or surprise can there be? The same position, the same partner, the same sensitivity. Nothing changes. Who would genuinely want to derive pleasure from something they've already experienced countless times, perhaps even hundreds, if not 3,000 times over? And that's why, of course, if you realize that your partner suits you completely in terms of life, children, property, and so on, then you really need to awaken sensitivity together and embark on some new experience as a couple. After all, no one truly teaches us how to actually choose the right positions in sex, how to properly orgasm, how to open your mouth and what to really say, how to hold your hands and legs. And the profound moment of true fulfillment, the immense pleasure and deep satisfaction derived from what is genuinely happening, is meticulously created solely by each individual person, acting entirely independently and autonomously. So you shouldn't expect your partner to do something more for you. After all, we also teach, including in our own practices, how to truly derive pleasure from yourself, to fully open up your inherent sensitivity, so that we can effectively redistribute the very tensions we have into that very sensation that brings profound fulfillment and some new vibrant vibrations. That's why it's correct to say that a person should experience this for themselves. And secondly, the partner needs to understand what the other person truly needs and respond accordingly in their interaction. If we're talking about sex, then we're truly talking about an energy exchange, without which the very act itself is simply impossible. That's precisely why the feeling of interaction is incredibly important here. How one person genuinely gives something and the other gracefully receives. The fundamental problem for most women who come to my sessions is often this: I simply cannot truly receive from men. I am perfectly capable of doing things myself, but I just cannot do it effectively with a man. This is fundamentally a matter of deep-seated distrust. That is precisely why she experiences pleasure entirely on her own, isn't that right? But then when a man eventually comes into her life, she tends to completely shut down. And here, the issue is a psychological trauma. Why doesn't she allow a man into her life? And there was accordingly some kind of story where a stepfather or someone else made advances or something else happened, which again she doesn't remember. So the issue of sexuality and the fullness of these relationships comes down to when partners clearly realize that something is wrong, that they want more. They go into practice, working either individually or together. It's better to do it together because I already conduct individual sessions for couples where they experience and feel their relationships differently and realize that, as it turns out, you can apply more pressure in a certain area where a person needs it and they want to receive that support, some kind of resistance, I would say, more of it. But the man doesn't give it because he's also afraid to show himself as a man, afraid to hurt this woman. That's it. These moments in a couple are worked through well. Then naturally, the sex life of people who have been together for years, even decades, can improve.
Is it possible to overdo it with these practices? Is it possible? How much does pulling out this energy or neurowave affect the body, our physical shell? Because I remember when I was at the seminar, when you practice all this from morning till night, you get so tired from eat well, thrashing around, hitting the floor. That's quite an experience. But when it's in an intensive format, I understand that it was a training process, but it really felt like I was completely exhausted. Can this wear out the body?
Of course, it still releases tension. Well, you just don't have any strength left. How much can you take? That's why the principle of any course is that it should be environmentally friendly for everyone who attends. That's why I create a certain structure to prevent that very wear and tear. And everyone accumulates things differently. Some people have a breakthrough on the third day, while for others, just half a day is already enough. So we step aside, stay there, and truly experience it with complete ease. That is, of course, with a particular group I lead, I always have to make certain necessary adjustments, which is a constant consideration for me. Someone gets overheated, right? They go too deep into the trauma. So sometimes you have to approach the practice less intensely, to step back a bit, so to speak. That's precisely why it's a very individual and personal matter. And indeed, overheating happens quite often if you engage in the activity intensively, really, especially if you focus on some particularly difficult and challenging cases.
Vadim, you brought up the topic of beer. I know that some masters allow both alcohol and meat, and their students also get started at seminars, and everything is fine for them. But you, in this regard, are, let's say, categorically against it. Why? It works for them, but you, for example, forbid it.
Well, the main and crucial point here is that when a person comes to practice, they truly need to work. If someone is under the influence of alcohol,
not during the process, as a lifestyle.
If it's truly about one's lifestyle, then any consistent and constant habits will still profoundly affect your entire way of life. And it's ultimately about what the body genuinely craves. The body understands that it can't relax unless it drinks something. Why do we drink, after all? To relax, right? We eat something to relax, we satisfy ourselves in that way, but that's just a kind of substitute. And the point is to find a healthy substitute so that you can simply relax calmly with your own sensations and intention and actually enjoy it. Therefore, in general, the strong recommendation is absolutely not to use illicit drugs, potent alcoholic beverages, hallucinogenic mushrooms, or any other substances with psychotropic properties. And for that very significant reason, I never ever take on people in my practice who are currently on actual prescribed antidepressants because, well, nothing is truly going to work effectively.
Yes, it can really...
Well, what you get is just a mess, right? Completely emotionless. They don't realize that there are no emotions.
But can that kind of mess even start? What if that mess is watching us right now and they really want to finally stop, to finally throw away those pills and start living a vibrant life? If they come to you...
When there's a significant amount of tension in the body, we are often forced to artificially suppress it somehow, perhaps using pills or some other external means, instead of physically releasing it. Truly trusting a skilled master and actually working through the underlying block that is causing the profound tension. And then you can live freely without tying yourself to all sorts of medications. Unfortunately, this is precisely what many people often do instead. But then again, this simply means that their opportune time has not yet truly arrived. And that very information that there is another way, why are people watching us right now? To find those very responses in their own lives. To realize, guys, yes, body-oriented therapy exists. Yes, the Neurowave method exists. We can remove psychological blocks from the body. And it's not a block in the form of some physical tension in the body, like when a muscle cramps up, right? It's really more of a feeling that we haven't lived through, haven't processed, haven't released, that something in our life isn't working out, and it's very rarely felt physically. It's just a thought that comes up like, damn, I feel bad. So let's still turn to specialists who can help you, and you really will be able to live differently.
All right, let's get back to our viewer who's on antidepressants but really wants to get off them. Thank God I've never taken them myself, but talking to these people, I understand that they actually enjoy being on them. So when you suggest maybe it's time to stop, no, it's hard for them to quit. At least that's the case with the people I've talked to. Yeah, but what if there are those who want to quit and live a normal life without being dependent on pills? What would you recommend to them if, say, they want to come to you or to other bodywork specialists? As I understand it, they won't be able to start with you, right? So is there some kind of intermediate level or stage after which it would be more effective for them to come directly to you?
Any kind of consistent self-work, when done regularly and with dedication, produces significant and lasting results on a consistent basis. And when I felt like I was at rock bottom and didn't understand how or who could help me, and psychology, no one was actually helping, I started practicing Qigong. Taoist techniques put me in a state where I started to feel differently, and I began to help myself get rid of this tension. And this is the important work I consistently tell everyone who comes to my professional practice, or those individuals who genuinely want to join my practice, that certain essential actions truly need to be done on a daily basis with your physical body, so that we can effectively breathe breathing exercises, mindful yoga, whatever specific activity you personally like. All these beneficial bodily practices, these self-practices, yes, they absolutely give you the invaluable opportunity to build this sustainable way of being without any additional pharmaceutical medication whatsoever. But I don't eliminate dependence on them. That's a completely different approach. A person can only help themselves by their own decision.
I'd also like to hear a bit more about different cases. I know that one of the most common requests from our female audience is about relationships. Can you share some of your experience? What have you discovered in Rewind? Do they have certain fears or worries? Maybe this is a common story and everyone will recognize something of themselves in it, and maybe they'll start working through it on their own level or using your method to address problems related to relationships.
Well, of course, it's a very popular question. In relationships, there are typically two distinct positions that individuals can take when they choose to assume a certain role within a partnership. The man's position. He gives, the woman receives, and many women can't receive and men can give. Because sometimes in a partnership, both people are truly giving, both are diligently working, and they are constantly competing with each other. That is precisely why in this particular position, the balance is completely restored. So if you are a woman, please learn to graciously receive and genuinely feel pleasure from the very act of receiving. That's why we work on this in our practices. And when she feels that she can truly let a man get close to her and feel his touch, even in this sense, then she starts looking for partners in her life differently. Either her partnership is restored and the partner she has becomes more interesting to her, or she simply finds that very person. Because many women in general don't let men into their lives at all, simply because they express their masculine side too actively. You know, it's like this. There's not enough sexuality, not enough femininity. This is exactly the kind of attitude where, in principle, partnership with men is impossible. That's it. So there have been all sorts of cases. There have been all kinds of people coming in, and how should I put it? There have been lesbian relationships. There have been
Same sex.
same-sex relationships, yes. And in this particular context, there isn't really a clear sense of what is inherently right or what is inherently wrong. The main thing is that the person feels great about themselves. And if they get satisfaction from their partner, then I think there are no issues here at all. But if they're not getting enough, the question is about learning how to receive, learning how to give. Men don't show up in the role of being the one who gives, who provides support to a woman. And that's why naturally a woman can't find such a person. A man needs to feel what drives him, the energy within himself, the feeling that allows him to be a man. This is that deep, actually showing up, I don't know, maybe even growling, right? To scream out emotionally, to properly and effectively create a rejection of some kind of attack on a person's physical body when they are under significant pressure. And this shows up very clearly in practice. Sometimes we worked with as many as 5 people. There were 5 of us, and we couldn't hold down one woman. She had so much stress and tension in her body that she threw all the men off. So first, it was necessary to release this block of tension, and after that, she finally took a breath. So accordingly, the man who was her partner was actually afraid of her. In bed, she was number 1, but in bed, the man is supposed to be number 1. As a result, he couldn't fulfill himself as a man, and their relationship was understandably not great. And when she released all that tension from her body, she started letting the man into her life differently, and the family dynamics changed. But the issue is that she could accumulate it all again. Here, the real work is with the mind, with her mindset, in terms of who she is, who she wants to be, and how she sees herself in this space. It's not enough to just release the block. It's important to find synchronization with the person's mind and discuss this process so that she doesn't revert to her old patterns.
Vadim, do couples who are experiencing a significant crisis often come to see you for professional help? And if so, in your extensive professional experience, is there a common underlying reason for family crises that frequently arise within their relationships?
Of course, couples come every time, every week. And what's surprising is that, for example, I just flew in from Thailand, and there were 2 couples in crisis. There one couple flew in from Canada, from Vancouver, and another from Germany, among others. I explained to everyone in English how to truly love each other and how to build relationships properly. People have not understood each other for many years. One couple was exactly in that situation I talk about, where there are 2 men in the family, and the woman takes on the same role as the man. And naturally, they gave in. This is the kind of situation where one person really needs to yield and the other needs to provide support. They didn't have that. No one taught them how to live properly. And it just so happened that well, how should I put it? I never studied to be a sexologist. But for me, in some cases, these questions are so clear and logical that I teach people how to build their relationships correctly in the sexual aspect. And this is exactly the moment when in couples we can build new relationships over the course of a single training in just 3 days. Another couple, on the contrary, the man was not sensitive. The woman sends him the signal, I love you, but he had some kind of block. He doesn't see her, doesn't hear her, doesn't feel her, doesn't understand what she's talking about. In other words, he had such a deep, seriously traumatic childhood experience that he couldn't manifest himself, couldn't open up to his other half. And it had built up so much between them that it led to the brink of divorce. And we worked on this issue in couples as well, helping the man to open up his sensitivity, that a man can accept affection and care from a woman. But he's a man, he has to endure, he has to suffer. He's supposed to be the strongest, the most masculine, and he doesn't deserve affection from women. That's the kind of mindset his parents instilled in him. But a man can also be gentle, and most importantly, he can cry, he can feel too. And with this can, we go even deeper. And then naturally, he accepts the feelings from his beloved wife, with whom we've been married for 10 years, finally, and he can be completely fulfilled. She enjoys giving to her man. As he's filled with this love, he reciprocates by giving her support, care, money, and so on. It's an exchange that works beautifully. A great story with a great ending.
And I know that you have some special technique that allows you to take certain measurements. Could you please share what that is? What kind of measurements are these?
We measure a person's energy field, their psycho-emotional field, and also their physical energy structure. In other words, how a person's body feels physically. There are two indicators, two measurements with different filters. And without a filter, this is the Krotkov gas discharge visualizer, which has already been on our market for at least 20 years. But it only entered my practice relatively recently, just a few months ago. As a researcher, I had a request. I'm very curious, and I want to know how my practices and my method actually affect people from a scientific perspective. That's why I needed a medical device that is recognized, which is certified and used by psychologists, as well as in medical institutions, by allergists who look for problems, what a person reacts to, which allergen, and so on. We specifically purchased it, and I was in a complete state of profound shock when we took an initial measurement before the practice with a young girl, and then took another subsequent measurement after the practice. I clearly saw that there are all sorts of different and varied indicators. There is a comprehensive chakra system. There, accordingly, I saw how much they were all misaligned before the practice and how much they were aligned and increased after the practice. This particular moment truly gave me the incredible opportunity once again to make absolutely sure, like, wow, this is truly awesome. My methods really, truly work. I mean, it's one thing when a person genuinely says, I feel light, I feel free, or for example, I earn more money, I found someone. But it's another thing entirely when you have a medical indicator that gives you a clear graphical representation of how a person's energy structure has been aligned. And now I conduct these experiments. And I also conduct personal sessions with this device. And when we take measurements before and after, and I can see how much a person can change in their psycho-emotional state in just one session. Of course, I won't, let's say, I won't cure someone of, I don't know, some kind of darkness or long-term incurable complex disease in a single session. But we all understand perfectly well that our psycho-emotional state has a very strong impact on our physical health. If we are constantly in a state of depression, whether we want it or not, our stomach, heart, and so on will eventually get sick. And this device demonstrates that, in other words, the longer we stay anxious, the harder it will be for us to restore our physical health later on. That's why I say that in addition to physical practices or courses, it's necessary to do yoga, qigong, or something similar every day in order to remain calm at all times and, as they say, to maintain a balanced energetic state and truly enjoy life.
Vadim, our final traditional question, if you have the time to read books or watch movies and television series, what recent ones could you confidently recommend to our audience, perhaps something truly captivating?
Well, lately I really haven't had time for anything, but nevertheless, there are books that have inspired me. Really, one is Dispenza's Supernatural Mind, which clearly explains the neurons in the human body and how they can truly influence the development of our perception of reality. And of course, a state that allows a person to change right now and to be present in the very moment. There's also the inspiring film and profound book Peaceful Warrior, which I believe everyone should watch and read. I definitely recommend it to everyone. The film is based on real events, and if you reach this state, the moment of here and now, it naturally allows you to see a lot. First, within your own body and sensations, and second, in the world around you. Friends, and of course, in addition to the literature I've mentioned, I really want you to look at yourself from the perspective of various practices. I have a really great practice for checking your own energy. By the way, you can also identify your own blocks if you have any in your body and experience new sensations. It's a very cool method that in a very short time will let you feel if there's something in your body and whether you can somehow control it. So naturally, we'll leave all the links, right? So they'll be available in our broadcast.
Below this video,
Go check it out.
yes, go ahead, click, explore the website, do this checkup, and be sure to leave your feedback in the comments. Thank you so much for watching until the end. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so you stay updated. Subscribe and share this video with everyone who, in your opinion, would benefit from watching it. Vadim, thank you so much. I also got a number of interesting answers for myself.
Thank you. It was a pleasure for me as well.
Yeah,